So the vaccine is here, and it's rolling out across the country, arguably in a very slow or disjointed way, but there are some promising signs that we are all going to have access to it soon. So fingers crossed. But until then, business and the impact the pandemic has had on business remains a big topic, and our health. So today we're going to talk about both health and business and the health of our businesses with one of my dear friends and a worldwide renowned, and I am not saying that mildly. You have to go Google her and you will find out the real deal, and not just from me. And she's too humble to share it herself. But world-renowned doctor and naturopathic doctor in particular, which is something I follow and I think is really critical to the health of the whole of humanity. And in particular, we're going to get into skincare. One of my friends and skincare expert in Detroit, Kendra, mentioned during one of our calls, we started off at the beginning of COVID with people doing kind of, all office attire, for their Zooms. And then it went to just nice shirts and pajama bottoms. And now people don't even worry about wearing nice shirts. But what is still important is your skin, because that's what people are seeing during the Zoom. So, and skin has a lot to do with the rest of our health. So I'm going to let the experts speak to that. And I'm a devotee, so I think you will be after you hear a bit from Dr. Nigma. So I'd like to bring Dr. Nigma.
Hi, Angel.
Hey, so good to see you.
Nice to see you too. It's been a while.
I know. Well, LA is getting a little bit better, and San Francisco Bay Area is getting a little bit better. So yeah. We'll have to do this in person soon.
Yes, good. We will.
I've got lots of questions for you. And I thought we would just first start off with a little bit about what are some of the things that we should consider in terms of our overall health and the connection that our overall health has to, the quality of our skin and the appearance of our skin. You talk a lot about inside out. So, so if you could tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll kind of go into a little bit about your story after that.
It's an interesting question, because a lot of people think if they put like products on their skin that's going to be the only solution to, people will go on and purchase, 10 different serums and creams and all sorts of stuff. And I think that's fine to a certain degree, but you really need minimal products, skincare products. You need a cleanser, a serum, and a cream. And a sunscreen, and that's it. So, people focusing on the outside it's only half the solution. So the inside is where we know that as we get older, as soon as we hit 40, which was a long time ago for me, we lose like over 40 to 50% of our collagen. And collagen is what makes our skin look nice and plump, and even our elasticity. So it's an inside job, and aging, premature aging is an option. It's not necessarily something that can happen for sure. So people that prematurely age is what my focus on. Aging is beautiful. I want people to get that off the cuff, because, the fine lines, and I think they're really sexy, and it shows that you've lived. It shows that you have expression, you're not like, completely, numb. Now, I'm not saying baby Botox is not okay. Some of my clients do it. But it's, the completely hyper injected look, which makes everybody look the same. And, most of our communication is body language, Angel. So when you do this, you're not really communicating. So absolutely inside.
I can't do my party tricks with my eyebrows either.
Oh, we need those beautiful party trick eyebrow moves that you do.
But yeah, I mean,
you don't know that Angel and I are good friends. So
yeah, she knows all my tricks. Yeah. But yeah, you and I have both spent a lot of time in Italy, and I think one of the things that I love about that culture is that well, everyone's just naturally beautiful, but but apart from that, I really do feel like more than perhaps here in the U.S. that they embrace aging as a form of beauty, like those lines that you talked about. You can really tell a lot about somebody. Like if somebody is angry, a lot of times you see certain wrinkles in certain places as opposed to somebody who's like laughing a lot, and you get different lines. So I agree. So tell us a little bit about how you got into the not just medicine, but your particular field of medicine. And that I love our story about when we first met, and through our friend Anna in London. And I was like, oh, I can't remember how it came up, but somebody mentioning you were a doctor, and you were explaining it in very layman's terms, and I was like, oh, are you a functional medicine doctor? And you're like, how do you know about that? Because back then, which was almost a couple decades ago, that it was really not in the common vernacular in terms of medicine.
absolutely, yeah, you were right on. Obviously your research into this was before, especially in the UK, where functional medicine or naturopathic medicine was not known. And functional medicine is basically naturopathic medicine. They're just calling it that, because you can't call yourself a naturopathic doctor if you don't go to naturopathic medical school, but that's what we do as naturopathic doctors. It's not like we became a doctor in a different field and then gained functional medicine. That is naturopathy. It is functional medicine, which is really amazing. And that's why I decided to go into it, because I wanted to look at the function of the body. I wanted to look at the root cause versus just sticking a plaster on top and trying to, hide that problem where it would come out somewhere else in the body. Anytime you hide or suppress a symptom, it will come out somewhere else in the body, because the body's trying to let it out, and the body's also trying to tell you something. So really interesting. And that's why functional medicine is the key. Naturopathic medicine is functional medicine, and looking at the root cause of illness rather than putting a Band-Aid approach.
Yeah, and I think everyone can relate to that, right? Because I think when we're stressed, it starts coming out, in our face. There's that really funny scene from Something About Mary, right? When that guy is, really like stressing out and has a lot of anxiety, and those bumps start getting like bigger and bigger on his face. And it's a really like comedic way of reality, right? It happens to all of us when we're stressed about work or, with our families or relationships or whatever. You start to see it in different ways. Or, when we've had, too much wine and like, I don't even know if we have images of that, but we should pull that up if we've got those, because yeah, that's really helpful. Yeah. Can you talk us through this?
Yeah, so I developed these 4 phases of aging, and we'll start with wine phase. So anyone who overindulged over Christmas, wine phase I created as, if you look at what wine is, it is basically sugar. And what I noticed from patients in the past that have drank a lot of wine or drink wine every day, these are some of the things that you can get on your face that can show up on your skin. So fine lines under the eyes and wrinkles, reddish skin, deepened nasolabial folds. None of us want that. Dehydrated skin, droopy eyelids, and pronounced spots between the 2 eyes. So again, those are the faces based on, I studied traditional Chinese medicine, and also this was an observation of seeing patients over the last 20 years. And I would literally call my patients names, Angel. I think you, at one point, I did call you a name.
And you probably called me many names over the years.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I love you. Like wine face. Like I'd be like, oh, you have wine face.
Yeah.
Like, how did you know? And I would say, well, you can run, but you can't hide.
Yeah. Right.
Wine face. And they're like, how did you know? So again, this is how we can tell. And then we have other faces, which we can pull up and speak about. Well, we can speak about the faces as you see fit.
Yeah. Let's see. I think the wine face is probably one that people most need to see right now with the pandemic. But yeah, we'll pull some of the others up. And so when you were starting to, practice naturopathy, which is a very difficult word to say, how did you start to migrate more into kind of, skincare and that end of the work that you do?
Yeah, so when I went to into naturopathic medicine, over 20 years ago, I naturopathic doctors look at the root cause. So they look at the issues that are happening in the gut. So any kind of dermatological issue, skin issue, acne, eczema, this is like part of our practice. This is what we've been doing long, long before the skin and the gut connection is now really apparent. But, anything that happens in your gut will show up on your skin. So if you have psoriasis, if you have eczema, if you have acne, if you have redness on your skin, there is something going on in your gut. So always treating the root cause at the level of the gut was something of interest to me. And as I kept seeing patients, Angel, this was really cool, is I was taking out foods out of their diet that they were having that they shouldn't have. And I was giving them foods that they should have. And literally within a 3 to 6 month period, they would say, Dr. Nigma, is this possible that people are telling me I look younger? People are telling me that I look slender. People are telling me that my mood is better. What is going on? And I said, well, because whatever happens in your gut, any kind of imbalance in that bacteria can cause premature aging. And also, anything you use on your skin, you're going to have a reaction to if your gut is not working optimally. So again, I kept seeing patients with this, Angel, and they kept saying that, Dr. Nigma, I'm reversing the signs of aging, literally. So that's how I came up with the title of my book. And this is really from the help of patients telling me how they felt and looked after following a plan.
And so what are some of the recommendations? Like, are there, health is so personalized.
Yes.
So it's hard to say, for everyone, this is, the right plan. But what are some general kind of gut health practices from a diet standpoint or otherwise that we should really start to consider? Because, we've been in the pandemic for a long time. A lot of us allowed ourselves to indulge a bit throughout. And now I think we're at the point, right, exactly. Like I had more, at one point I was just like, having sugar and carbs, and I don't normally have either, and alcohol. And so what are some of the things that all of us should really consider from a dietary standpoint, just to make sure that our microbiome, our gut is really, really healthy?
And if you have been eating naughty during the pandemic, I call it the pandemic diet, coffee in the morning and alcohol at night. Don't be so hard on you. Alcohol sales have tripled. So, everybody's in the same boat and it's okay. But now it's, it's a new year. And I think it's a really good time to reset the body. So, avoiding things like sugar, dairy, gluten, and wine 80% of the time, right? So there's an 80-20 rule. And then 20% of the time allowing yourself to have it as you see fit. So say you have an interview the next day, like I have an interview with you, right? The day before, I'm not going to indulge in gluten or dairy or, sugar or wine because my face is going to be puffy. You know what I mean? I'm going to look more swollen, all of those things. So I'm going to avoid eating those foods so that, my face the next day is not going to look. And the puffiness is what actually makes you look older. It's not just wrinkles and sagging. It's that puffy look that makes people look older.
Yeah, and just unhealthy, right? I think we have some of those images in terms of dairy and sugar and gluten. So if we can pull those up.
Yes. So dairy face is, dairy has so many hormones in it. Like milk has, a cup of milk has dozens of hormones in it. And it, we then drink that from an animal, and it's impossible to get rid of that hormone. And that causes bags under the eyes, dark circles, because it causes mucus congestion. And it also causes acne. So I take patients off dairy and the acne is gone. Swollen eyelids. So anyone who has this puffiness around the eyes and dark circles, you're eating dairy. And some people don't realize that dairy is actually in yogurt, cottage cheese, and cheese. So people go, I don't drink milk. And I said, okay, well, do you have yogurt? Do you have cottage cheese? Those all have cow's milk in it. So avoiding those things is super, super important.
Yeah, and there's so many non-dairy options now too, right?
Yes, there are so many.
It's like cashew, almond, oats, what are some of their, there's some pea protein ones, and they're good. When I was vegan in law school, like the options were not very good. A lot of those products were kind of gross. You just had to grin and bear it.
And even today, like I look at the dairy alternatives and they don't taste as great. I mean, they have a lot of preservatives in them and sugar. So be careful about alternatives, because some of these alternatives could have, other things in them that are even worse for you than the original.
Yeah, that's right. And there's, and also the practices, like there was some Costco product about, I think it was a coconut milk product, where they were chaining monkeys to go get the coconuts. And I was like, no, that is
not acceptable.
Okay. And you're like serving the whole wrong audience, because typically people who care a lot about their health also care about the planet and other species. And, it doesn't always go hand in hand, but, I think we're hopefully evolved to a stage where we're just, we're not going to put up with cruelty and unsustainable practices. So you're right. I think there are lots of different factors in going into, those choices. And so when, in terms of the things that, one of the things that I had read about the microbiome is that it's essentially our first brain. Like we think about, our brain as our brain, right? But actually the microbiome is the first kind of protocol in terms of all the signals and messages that go throughout our entire body, including to our brain. So what else should we know about, our gut and the microbiome?
That's such a great question. And that's so interesting that, you've always been so cutting edge with your knowledge, Angel, in this area, which I always love talking to you, because you always ask the best questions. The gut lining, if people don't know, is only one cell thick, or rather thin. And so the exchange of nutrients between that one cell, it's interesting, because it's a double-ended sword, right? Because on the one hand, you want the nutrients to get in, but on the other hand, you don't want the toxins to get in. You want them to contain within the intestinal mucosa. And what's interesting is that if you eat terrible foods, or if you have tons of gluten in your diet, you can cause perforations to the gut. So I call that leaky gut. So this is a normal gut and this is leaky gut, right? And where toxins or foods can get through to the bloodstream. And then the immune system tends to look at that as foreign. It looks at those food particles and mounts an immune response. And then you get a whole cascade of inflammatory issues. So the gut lining is super thin. You have over 1 trillion bugs in your gut. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And stress levels, poor diet can alter that gut microbiome. And things like gluten can cause leaky gut. So that is a really good foundation to think about when you're trying to support your gut function in general.
And no one wants something called leaky gut. It just does not sound good.
Not sexy at all, that's for sure.
So a lot of the things, that you've taught me over the years, and that I've, studied, as you say, is really about, the kind of core staples of health. And I think, one of the interesting parts of watching your journey as well is that you know, in addition to being this amazing health expert and doctor, where you're serving, you know, some very high profile clients, you know, celebrities, you know, people who are in front of a camera, you know, and in a very big way on film and in the whole TV, etc. And so they really rely on your services to have kind of optimal health and also optimal appearance, especially, you know, in Hollywood. And so I'm curious about your journey as you were learning so much, not just in terms of your own expertise, but how, you know, either facials or different products that you were using with your clients helped you to determine, you know, there was a need for better quality products in the market, and becoming more of a businesswoman, you know, rather than just a kind of sole, you know, practitioner, sole, you know, doctor. So I would love to hear about what made you think like, okay, I need to actually create some better product here.
Absolutely. I saw a gap in the market. So in addition for patients saying to me that they looked younger from the inside work that we had been doing together, they were also searching for skincare products that were safe, effective, and actually going to do something, right? You're not going to spend X hundreds of dollars on a bottle of serum when you're not sure what it's actually going to do. Is it going to absorb into the skin? So I started looking at light water technology and different technologies to put in a serum to increase absorbability. Because at the end of the day, it's all about penetration and what gets absorbed into your skin. And is it toxic? Because the skin is the largest organ and can take in toxins. So I took all of those things into consideration and created my own skincare line, really for my own clients. I did not realize it was going to end up getting on, you know, different portals globally, which I'm so excited that it has. But, you know, I created a skincare line. I started with a probiotic and a serum. So those are my two first products. And then,
wait. I know. Is this?
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
You've been using it for a year. You've been using it since day one.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Can't you tell?
Yes, you're correct.
And what did you decide on those? Yes, there we go. What made you decide those would be your first couple of products? And
Well,
so serum and what else?
And a probiotic.
Probiotic, yeah.
So the probiotic, like all the probiotics on the market, like I just wasn't liking what was in the product. And I just thought, okay, let me just make this for my own client base. And at the time I was living in the UK, and my practice grew there quite substantially. And then I needed the probiotics for my patients. And so I wanted to create one probiotic that was good for everyone. And so I created the Healthy Flora. And then I thought, okay, I need a skincare product. Like, what do I want? You know, and I created a serum. And then Net-a-Porter approached me and wanted to take on the serum and the cream because some of their team had tried my products, and they said,
wait, I have to stop you there because for all of the people, all the entrepreneurs that are like hustling, trying to get their products, I mean, Net-a-Porter is just like a dream, you know, retail site. And so I love that you were making these products really to serve your, you know, your clients better and your patients better. And then they approached you. So you didn't have to go out there. Like, your product was so good that they're like, we want it on our, you know, e-commerce shelves, which is, you know, it's hard to put yourself in that position, you know, because usually you're selling as an entrepreneur. So, So first of all, congratulations on that. And I'm sure, like, you know, that was so long ago for you that maybe you take it for granted now. But yeah. So they approached you, and tell us about that.
So they approached me, but trust me, Angel, I hustled. Like oh,
I know you're a good entrepreneur. I know that.
You know what it is? When I believe in something, I don't give up. And you know, they really like the product line, and I said, they approached me, they said, how could we get this in? And I said, why won't you take this in? And they said, well, we don't have supplements. And I said, well, you need to have supplements. And so I was one of the pioneers of getting supplements introduced into the fashion industry, with Business of Fashion, with Net-a-Porter. And, I just met the right people, and I hustled with them, and I said, you guys, wellness is going to be the new fashion. I'm telling you, I don't know what you guys are doing. This was in 2015. And they said, okay. And, they didn't have a choice, because I kind of looked them in the eye and go, I think you should take it for sure. I remember exactly, we're at the Soho House at the Electric in Notting Hill. And I looked them in the eye and I said, you guys need this. You guys need it. And they're like, okay, well, what do we have to lose? And I'm like, nothing. And it sold out very quickly. Like, as soon as it got on, it sold out. I couldn't make enough probiotic. And I was like, okay, well, let me increase the line, let me make a cream and a cleanser. And I've just launched a face mask, which took me, 5-6 years to make. It's, my brand is very unique in the sense that I curate everything. I don't white label anything. I know a lot of doctor brands do that, and it's probably a smarter thing to do, is choose a company that has amazing products that you can just stick your label on. But I didn't do that because I just felt inauthentic. You know what I mean? Like, I just felt like, this isn't really my product. Like, how can I really stand behind something and sell it if it's really not something I put together? So,
for sure. I mean,
it's smarter financially, though. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, Richard Branson, is, one of the leaders in that. You find something, that you think is a good business, and then you slap your brand on it, and and it is a good business. You don't have all the operating costs, the research and development, and all of that, but I think you can damage your brand if you're not fully committed to that product, right? Because it's, your name, especially when it's literally your name that's out there. You want to make sure it's really good. So you went through all of the production to make sure that it was consistent with, what you wanted to offer. So so when you were looking at the probiotics, I know we've got some other images, I think, for gluten and for sugar. And those are, because I stopped drinking alcohol during the pandemic, and I'm very happy about that, except for on a special occasion, like a birthday or something.
Birthday.
Yes, exactly. Except for my birthday. But I try to have no sugar or no gluten, but it can be tough. But no, let's go to that gluten, because gluten, I think, is, we're learning, is terrible on so many different levels. So I've moved to a completely grain-free diet most days. But tell us about the impacts of gluten on our bodies and also our face.
Yeah, so gluten, as we were talking about before, damages the cell lining and the gut cell lining. And so it causes inflammation. If you look at gluten face, the woman's face is very swollen. So it's when you wake up with that puffiness, and you get some spots on the cheeks, and you get the dark patches on the chin. Again, gluten, we know, affects hormones, and the dark patches are a result of hormone imbalance. And also spots on the forehead, the puffiness. Like, think about yeast in bread. What does it do? It makes it expand. In the same way, it does that to your face. So the next morning after eating a pizza and a glass of wine, you'll have eaten all 4 faces, right? So, that puffiness is what makes us look like we're prematurely aging.
Yeah, that does not look attractive, although she has pretty eyes. Yeah. So you were launching those products with Net-a-Porter, and then you were getting this incredible demand. You had to increase supply, increase production, and then you're actually creating this whole new health and wellness business empire, which I love. I don't know if I told you, but so this season of these live streams is focused on wellness. And so we're looking at it from lots of different angles. And so when you expanded into the US,
Yes.
And you were obviously serving, people globally via Net-a-Porter and, direct to consumer sales. But then you really started to increase your practice and also the product line. What did you decide that, you thought would be the first product extensions? Because, we talked about the serum, which I have and I love and I use today. But then, that was getting outside of supplements, because some of the other supplements that I think you launched here are ones that I've got, the Be Famous. And so I would love for you to tell us about that. And the vitamin D, and we've had rain here for the past couple of days. So I've been particularly conscious about making sure I'm taking my vitamin D. So tell us about your decisions around launching those products.
The vitamin D, the vitamin D was something that I'd seen in clinical practice for the last 20 years. Most people are 80 to 90% deficient in 80 to 90% of people have a low vitamin D. And even the current reference ranges to me are very archaic. And people even on the low end of low vitamin D means that there's low vitamin D. What's happened over the years, Angel, if you look at our lifestyle, we wake up in the morning, we get into our car, we go to work, we drive to the office, we sit in the office, we come home. When are we outside?
Right.
To really get vitamin D, you need full body exposure, almost 80% of your body exposed for at least 20 minutes a day. How many of us actually do that? Maybe back in the day when we were hunter and gatherers, we were outdoors more, we were not on these devices. This is another thing that's caused, I believe, in my opinion, an inability to absorb vitamin D from the sun when you're around these blue light devices all the time. So again, this is all very interesting with why we're vitamin D deficient. Now, if you look at the pandemic, vitamin D has become a celebrity vitamin, and it's actually not a vitamin, it's a pro-hormone. Vitamin D receptors are found in every cell in your body and every tissue in your body. So if you're low in vitamin D, it's going to affect your whole entire body. It's going to cause you to have joint pain, muscle pain, bone pain, weight gain, diabetes, high blood pressure. And now we know COVID. We know people that have low vitamin D levels were 4 times more likely to get COVID and suffer from COVID-19. So really, really important, the vitamin D aspect is, also even worse, what we notice, Angel, I wanted to bring this up, is in darker skinned individuals like myself or the Afro-American population are likely to have less ability to absorb vitamin D because of the darker skin tones, are not able to absorb vitamin D as much as the Caucasian skin tones.
Is that a relationship between melatonin, or?
There is something to do with the melanocytes and the melanin, and there's an incredible amount of research with the ability for darker skins to absorb not only from the sun, but orally, Angel. So even oral doses of vitamin D for somebody darker skin like myself, I have to go much higher than some of my patients that are Caucasian. And so it's not enough to take 1,000 IUs a day, and it's not enough to just take D3. You need D3 with K1 and K2. Now, there are certain individuals that have clotting issues that should stay away from vitamin K. So you should always know your health history before you take supplements. Most of them are safe and effective, but it's always good to check in with your practitioner.
Well, I didn't tell you this, but today I'm going to get my blood work done. So I'll let you know how I'm doing on my vitamin D and all the rest of it. I'm checking my sugar level.
Good.
Doing a full panel. So, and I think you're right, because otherwise, you can take all these supplements and you might be taking ones that you don't need, or you might be taking ones that or not taking ones that, that you do need, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I rarely see somebody with over limits of vitamin D, but it is possible for you to take too much. It is also a fat soluble vitamin, which means that it could be toxic if you take too much. So again, it's always something to look into, but 1,000 IUs these days is really, really nothing. And we've been saying this as naturopathic doctors for years and years, that 1,000 IUs is not, for getting rid of inflammatory conditions, that's like hardly anything. And so now people even come up to when people used to be scared of 5,000 IUs, they're international units, people are now like, it's like a normal thing, to take that because of COVID. And any of my patients who had COVID that had no symptoms were on really good doses of vitamin D, and it didn't affect them as much as it could have or should have in some cases. So vitamin D is super important.
Yeah. Well, you'll be pleased to know that I've been diligent about mine. In my last blood work, all my vitamin D levels were very, very good. And they said, like, we never see this, usually almost everyone is depleted, and I was like, I've been very good.
That's awesome. I know I was on your case for a time being there, and I was nagging you a lot. I'm like, please take your vitamin D.
Yeah. And yeah, I've heard that about at least people that I know that have had COVID, in terms of the supplements that they've been taking, that they've been able to get better much quicker with vitamin D, and obviously vitamin C and some other kind of key things. I think we have a question from Kendra, who I mentioned. There's Kendra, yay. Yeah, that's a good question. Can you talk about the difference between skin dehydration and dryness, and maybe hydration overall?
So yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we have, if you live in California, it's quite dry. And so, things like your environment can cause your skin to be dry from an external view, but dehydration starts from within. And a lot of that is people drinking too much water, believe it or not. Because if you drink a lot of water, you're going to pee a lot and you're going to excrete all your minerals out. So I quite often I like to drink water. Like, I drink this water with electrolytes in it. Although I don't really need the electrolytes, because we'll talk about these ones later, but I add in my own beauty cocktail and vitamin C into that so that I get my nutrients. But always adding something to your water is important, like Himalayan salts or electrolytes, not just drinking water directly on its own, because that causes inner dehydration, and it shows up on your skin when you don't drink enough water, and your bowel movements.
Got it. So I've got those packets that you had there.
Yeah.
I was finishing off my own vitamin C that I have, but I'm excited to open up this one.
Yeah, that's this. So
okay.
What I do is I put it in water. I empty the powder in the water, and I just shake it up, and I drink it as a cocktail, right? So a lot of patients of mine have said that they've stopped drinking coffee, like they're drinking this first thing in the morning, because it's giving them a rush of energy in a good way, because it has vitamin C, phosphatidylcholine, zinc, which we know zinc is super, super important. And then what I like to do is I like to put it in a kind of cocktail glass, so that, especially in the evening, so that I feel like I'm having a drink, but I'm not.
I love that. We just had a discussion. I just had a discussion with Ricky Williams and the Leela team last night. And Ricky is a former NFL star, and we were talking about my star signs, actually. And he read me like nobody's business. It was so funny. And so one of the things that I had no option but to reveal is that I consider myself like a bon vivant, right? And he's like, I can see it all over the place. But since I haven't been drinking, yeah, I like to do things that make it feel a little bit more special when I'm drinking now.
Absolutely. And I mean, when you are drinking, what I've done is I've put some vodka in here or tequila and, made like a martini with it. And I swear I don't have a hangover the next day.
That's so good.
It's like when I want to indulge. But yeah, January's been like really dry.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's why I put THC in my drinks.
Great.
Yeah, THC, vodka, or tequila. Those are my poisons for sure.
Yeah.
And so tell me about, so you had Net-a-Porter, and then in the US, you extended the product line. So you started to look at other products, both for internal health, but also topical. And I have another one of your products here. I feel like I've got I don't have everything. I need everything. But so I've got the cleanser here. And so there we go. And I love the packaging. So the cleanser you came out with in the US, and is this, because I know you had some products launch with Nordstrom, right? Is this some, or which products can people buy with Nordstrom? And tell us about that journey.
They can buy everything with Nordstrom. My entire product line, Nordstrom took everything. The cleanser number one I developed in Switzerland with some scientists. It has a combination of volcanic ash, which really goes in. It's from Italy, the volcanic ash, and it really takes out the toxins from the skin. You'd be shocked what your skin looks like after you wash it. And it's got hyaluronic acid, glycolic, and salicylic acid. And so you've got everything you need. People really underrate a cleanser. The cleanser is one of the most important skincare, because it's actually, if you think about it, if you look at us, what is everything that's exposed? Our neck, our décolletage, and our face. So we have to wash that and get rid of the toxins off our skin, and then use products on top of our skin that can penetrate better into the skin, because you've actually removed a layer of the toxins. You've allowed for resurfacing to happen without stripping the skin, which is super important, keeping the skin microbiome intact.
Yeah, got it. So are there any things that we should know? Oh, I wanted to tell you, Dante is there. He's
here because he's
photobombing. Hi, Dante.
I don't know what it is. Every time I do an interview, he wants to be part of it. So
hi, Dante. Yeah, well, I had Stormy on my lap, but he's decided to go crash over there. So
I love Stormy.
Yeah, they could have done, like, joined our conversation, right?
100%. They should know all this stuff.
Yeah, so on Clubhouse, the reason I mentioned it, Clubhouse last night, or maybe it was this morning, I don't know, there was an entrepreneur pitching a skincare line for dogs. So I have to talk to you about that one. Yes, because she was saying that the skin for dogs is so much more thin than human skin, and they can get sunburn more easily, and like lots of different things. So we'll have to talk about maybe a line inspired by Dante, and maybe
100% Dante would be totally into modeling. He's not camera shy.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to contact her and co-create. But so one of the things that I'm curious about, because we're kind of getting into February, and everyone wants to look their best for Valentine's Day, although I don't know how people. Yeah, exactly. Like,
you should look your best for you every day.
Yeah, I agree for sure. So what should we know in terms of seasonality and skincare?
Yeah. It's true. Like, when the seasons change, our skin is more susceptible. I mean, it's the only thing that's always exposed. And, whether it's the summer, you've got the sun, you still have UV light outside. So still wear sunscreen when you go out. Like, especially here in California, like, don't be tricked that because it's a cloudy day, you're not going to get any exposure. But in terms of like prematurely aging and age spots and sunspots and things like that. But I think it's super important to use a serum, a really good cleanser, a serum and a cream and a sunscreen. That and a face mask, treatment mask once a week. And that's why I created those products, is for real consumers, for general real consumers, not somebody that's using like 10 different serums, because less is more. When you're putting too many products on your skin is going to react. And especially if your gut is like unhappy from the pandemic diet, or you have one of the 4 phases of aging, it's going to react to things and products that normally it wouldn't react to, whether it's natural or not. It doesn't matter. Just because it's natural doesn't mean that it's good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so and I'm so glad, it's simple, because I think, especially as women, we get marketed to and bombarded with so much messaging around, beauty and health and the rest of it. And pretty soon it's easy to have an entire countertop filled with, with product for everything under the sun.
Yeah.
And, I remember growing up, once I became a teenager, my mom introducing me to Clinique, right? And it was
I remember Clinique. Yeah.
It was a rite of passage, I felt like.
Yeah.
I felt like women our age, like when you were a teenager, your like mom at some stage would kind of introduce you to Clinique, and they had that great 3-step program. And I don't buy Clinique products anymore. I'm sure they've improved and they're great, and they were great at the time, but I loved that simplicity. So I think it ingrained in me, like, I am not willing to fuss over all this other stuff. It's
not going to do anything. Your skin can only absorb so much product at a time.
Yeah.
There is something about layering, but layer, cleanse really well, do a really good serum and a really good cream and a sunscreen. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need. And a face mask once a week. And if you have really congested skin, you could add an exfoliant to that once a week.
And sleep.
And sleep. Sleep is that's when you regenerate. That's when you anti-age. That's like the biggest, and that's free. You can you can organize your sleep, yourself. So again, that's something that, figuring out why is it that you're not sleeping? Do you have dark blinds? Is your room cool? You can't sleep in a hot room. Are you watching TV right before you go to bed? Are you scrolling on Instagram or Clubhouse before you go to bed?
Guilty as charged. Yeah.
Are you, working on emails? You know what I mean? Like, it'll catch up to you. You can do it sometimes, but if you do it every day, what I do is I switch off my phone now, and sometimes I'll put it in a different room. So the only thing is I just don't know what time it is, but I just now let my body on the weekends wake up to whenever it wants to wake up. And I don't have my phone, so I don't know what time it is. And I think that's really important, especially if you can't do that during the weekdays. And I get that, because you have a business you're manning and you have to be, it's myself. But on the weekends, the phone is going in a different room, switched off, and I don't care what's going on.
I'm the same. Weekends, I've had people say like, oh, let's do, a 6 a.m. hike on Mount Tam. And I'm like, if I happen to get up at that time, that's fine. But otherwise, I'll text you when I'm up.
So funny.
I let myself kind of go as long as, as I can. So I think we have another question here. Here we go. From Hint of Film. And I want to find out more about that, who Hint of Film is. A problem I have is touching my face too often.
Yeah.
I think we learned during the pandemic that this is a problem everybody has. We all touch our face way more than we realize. So what are some remedies in terms of food I eat and otherwise that can counterbalance this bad habit? Like maybe it's itchiness or oily or different reasons we touch our face. What can we do to stop it?
Well, it's such a good question. And it's every time I see friends or family or patients are sitting in front of me and they touch their face, I'm like, don't touch your face. And I said, if you do that again, I'm going to get a ruler and smack you, So it is something that you have to be very aware of. Even your phone, your devices, you have to clean them with alcohol. You can get one of those alcohol wipes. You have to wash your hands regularly, because we've been touching things. We've been touching our keyboard. And then we touch our face. So I'll use like my nails to kind of put back my hair. I'll rarely touch my face. without washing my hands. It's something that you're gonna really have to be aware of, because touching your face is really, that's where you can sort of mess up the microbiome of the skin, and you have lots of oils on your fingertips that you should not be adding, especially if you have sensitive skin. And if you have sensitive skin, it's because of what you're eating, and it's of how your gut microbiome is. It's who's living in there, basically, who's living in your gut microbiome that's creating this inflammatory redness on the skin.
So as little sugar as possible, as little gluten as possible, as little dairy as possible, and as little alcohol as possible. Lots of fresh vegetables, seafood.
You know what the thing is, and it's gonna sound unattainable, but if you really have a problem with this redness, skin is very stubborn. It will not go away unless you completely cut it out for a good 3 to 6 months. That's how stubborn skin is. So if you really want results, I mean, look at the things that you can eat versus what you can't eat. That's the way I like to do it. Because if I say I can't do this, I can't do that, I get very like, but I want that, and it makes me want it more.
Deprived. Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah.
So just look at and I wrote a book, and in my book I talk about everything you can eat. So I think that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, and I think what I've had to do is I've had to keep reminding myself that the healthy food is the reward and the fuel, because I used to think, I'd have that mindset of like, oh, I've been very good, so I'm going to allow myself to have that chocolate, and that still happens sometimes, I don't think you eliminate, everything for the rest of your life, but I've started to tell myself, Angel, like an act of self-love is eating really nutritious food. And what's amazing when you talk about that 3 to 6 months, which is a real good detox period, is when you do have those other foods after that period of time, you don't even want them. They don't taste as good. It doesn't feel as good. So sometimes, whatever, before for me, it was traveling, which was the problem.
Yeah.
In terms of staying on plan. And now I don't have that problem. So it's been in a lot of ways easier to stay on plan, and sometimes whatever, you've just had a hard day and you just grab, whatever when you're in the grocery store or those, those urges, kick in. And then you can kind of go down that slippery path, right? Because then once you start eating the crappy stuff, it doesn't feel as bad because you kind of grow accustomed to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you get that, because a lot of people don't get that, and they continue doing it. They're like, well, it's not affecting me.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't know what you could have until you try it.
Exactly. It's kind of like relationships. A lot of people stay in really bad relationships because they like just get used to being like feeling like crap, or just not feeling alive or in love, or whatever it is. Even in platonic relationships, people do it. It's just like
so very good analogy. I love it, Angel.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so I want to thank you so much for your time. And I think let's see. Oh, we've got one last question before we go.
Yes.
And that is what's your opinion, which is better, physical or chemical exfoliation?
Ooh, okay.
Good one.
So that's a really good question. So in some cases, if you have really, 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 really congested skin, I recommend a little bit of physical, a little bit of chemical. For people who have sensitive skin, I stay away from any physical exfoliation, because it's going to really, you don't want to upset the skin barrier. And again, the skin barrier is all about inflammation. So it's like the inflammation is coming from your gut. It is not necessarily coming from what you're doing topically to your skin. It is part of it. It's being affected. So say you're allergic to, I don't know, a vitamin C, for example, which God forbid, I don't want anyone to be allergic to it. But say you're allergic to it and you are eating crappy food and all of that kind of stuff. you're allergic to it because you're eating badly. You eat well again, and anything you then put on your face is not going to react as badly. Obviously, having said that, don't put any chemicals on your skin, but a physical exfoliation would not be my recommendation, especially if you are over the age of 30 to 40. And that's when our skin barrier function is more vulnerable. On younger skins, we can have more of the physical exfoliation, but a good chemical exfoliation like glycolic using natural acids and salicylic would be a really great option for most people. That would be my recommendation. Sorry for the long-winded answer, Kendra.
No, we love that detail. And I know Kendra does, because this is her big life passion. So, okay, so people can go to your website to learn more about your product line and to purchase products, yeah, directly from your website?
Absolutely.
And you're on Instagram, I know. And your book is available there too for lots of other insights and advice. So I think, and if you're very fortunate to be very affluent and be able to wait 6 months for an appointment, then then you might actually, get to meet you in person at some point.
Oh, I will. I look forward to it, Angel, and I look forward to seeing you soon. It's ridiculous. It's been too long. I miss our fun times together.
I know. We will have more soon. So, well, thank you so much, and I hope you have it's Friday. I hope you have.
I'm so happy it's Friday. Oh,
and we're both sleeping in tomorrow, so we're gonna look beautiful.
Exactly. I'm putting my phone away. Anyone trying to get a hold of me, it's in another room. All right.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you again, Nigma, and I'm glad to see the business doing so well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks to your team for arranging everything with my technical issues.
Yeah, no worries. They're awesome. So I'm glad we made it happen.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.